All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Workshop Wednesday. My name is Jim Schultens, a systems engineer here at Verify, and I'll be your host for today's workshop. And today we're joined by Matt Sykes, aka Matty Ice, who for today will be known as Matty Ice Cube, because
Oh
he's
no.
going to tell us all why you need Verify's Cube Analytics. You knew that was coming, huh? Did you,
I
Matt?
had a, I had a feeling.
All right. We're, on the agenda today, we're going to start off with a quick overview of our company and what we do. Next, Matt will show us the advantages of Verify's Cube Analytics. We'll pause for some Q&A and get some of your questions answered during the demo. If you do have any questions, make sure to ask them in the Q&A panel in the bottom right corner of the screen. After Q&A, we'll reward one lucky attendee a $50 Amazon gift card. So hang around to see if you've won. All right, a quick overview of Verify. Verify is the preferred analytics and management solution for Cisco collaboration. We provide industry-leading CDR, UCCX, and Cube call analytics, customizable dashboards and widgets, remote phone control, change management, and dial plan management. But today we're going to focus on the Cube analytics. If you have any other questions on any of the other features, please feel free to chat them over to me and we'll take those offline and get those answered for you promptly. All right, one more thing before we kick things off. For those of you looking for a more hands-off Verify experience, we do offer a managed consulting service. This is a service that provides a dedicated Verify SE to do all the heavy lifting, giving you and your users a completely hands-off experience. Think of us as an extension of your organization. It provides upgrades, one-on-one training, report and dashboard building, or anything you need. Your dedicated Verify systems engineer has you covered. The only thing you have to do is reach out to us. If you'd like additional information on our ECS service, please feel free to reach out to your account manager, and we'll be happy to see if ECS is right for you. All right, with all that said, I will kick it over to Matt, and he will lead us into the wild.
Okay, all right. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Matt Sykes with Verify here. Thank you for setting the table there, Jim. I'll zoom in as best as I can here for this demonstration here today. So welcome, everyone. So what the topic today is, why do you need Verify Cube Analytics? Well, so I'll say right out of the gate, it may not be for everyone, but I certainly think that a large majority of our customer base, certainly, and even people that are unfamiliar with Verify, could benefit from Verify's Cisco Cube Analytics. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of the same similar data that is serviced and routed through the Cisco Cube routers that interface or deliver traffic into or out of the Cisco phone system, the CUCMs. But the leverage actually from the Cube CDR data set actually will give us exposure, which you probably don't even have at this moment, or may not have, or may not know about, exposure to where the inefficiencies of that cube routings. So if you have an environment that is made up of multiple collaboration platforms and not just Cisco, so for instance, if you have a call manager cluster environment, but you have an MS Teams platform or a Zoom platform or another platform that your cube routers can certainly be routing traffic to, CUCM is not going to know anything about those call handlings or pitfalls or degradations therein. So definitely there's the Cube CDR data set does give us exposure to failures of traffic in and out of Call Manager or around Call Manager, let's say. So once again, back to those kind of other platforms certainly that you can have in your collaborations within your environment, we can certainly identify and showcase call failures and poor qualities of routings and releases within the environment coming from the Cube iOS router itself. So definitely there's a lot of things that we can showcase here that I'll walk us through right now. So we're looking at one of my lab environments here, and I'm into a Cube platform cluster. So what we're looking at here is just some very generic history results I have for this lab from a previous day. So in the history search section here, if you are familiar with Verify at all with the UCM CDR reporting, all this user experience will be very straightforward for you. You certainly have the granular historical history search here, so we can search based either by sequences or newly we can search also by events. So we can search based off of the criteria from the Cube data set that we collect from those routers themselves. Now, certainly, as you can see here, not as long a laundry list as we have for the contact center or the call manager side of the house, but definitely very applicable search criteria for us to filter on. So we do offer, as always, one sample, one out of the box. Here we are using calling number, call manager, CUCM, we use original called party number. But certainly, as always, we can either use this or we can remove it and use whatever else we deem necessary for our filters, for our quick searches, or to even go ahead and cultivate and build out a report for a manager or supervisor, or even just kind of cross-compare some of the data elements so that we can go ahead and build corresponding dashboard widgets for this Cube information or this Cube data. So I'll just pick on something very simplistic here. I always love to use the conditional single character wildcard character, excuse me. That paired with the conditional operators here can certainly pull back what I need to. I always like to lean on starts with one character or greater is what this will signify here for whatever in my time window, which is up here. I'm going to use previous day. I think it should be around those 22,000 calls. But as always, we're going to list out the granular call history details here. At the moment, by default, just to show you guys again real quickly, we will default to sequences. So within these search results here, there's always going to be at least 2 legs to every Cube call. So within the sequences, I do have the options of utilizing these pluses to either individually expand this call row here or all of them at once if I deem necessary. Okay, so a lot of similar stuff that we're all accustomed to, so, date time origination, for lack of a better term, or setup time. So we'll certainly see the times of these calls when they took place. We will see an origin, so an answer or an originate leg. There will always be one of each in each sequence from the Cube's perspective of call handlement, whether it's a call external from the environment or if it's internal and then going out of the environment. Certainly that will be represented based off of the calling line ID as well as the DNS details that are in this data set. Certainly we see call duration, but also we're going to see a lot of other pieces as well. There's a lot of good quality stuff that's in here. We'll also be able to see the remote media addresses and the peer IDs that are servicing all these routings off of the Cube iOS routers. Okay. Also, we'll be able to see pitfalls based off of cause codes, as well as there may be some internal error codes on your Cube data that you may not even be privy to. But once again, as always, in this history section, we can show hide columns as we see fit, or as you see fit, excuse me. So for in all my labs, I normally have a solid 20+ columns in here. But as always, within Verify, you can certainly have the options to go ahead and select and choose whichever additional detail columns that you want to see, or swap out what you don't think is necessary and put what is pertinent for yourselves. Certainly, as you can see, as always, we have originating and terminating parties as far as content is concerned for the detail columns. I have the lion's share of them in here already, but certainly you can peruse them at your leisure. Definitely we have a lot of signaling options as well as, I think I have most of them in here, miscellaneous options, but as well as there's quality as well. So I certainly have some quality stuff in here. So packets, received, lost, transmitted, gap fills, et cetera, et cetera. So certainly do know that we have plenty of detail columns here for your usage. And but we're not going to leverage all of them. We're going to leverage a good share of them, the most important ones for data reporting analysis. So whether or not we're keying off of remote media addresses, peer IDs, or even kind of looking up these internal error codes, which we will in a few moments here, we certainly can do so from the history search engine here, as always, all of our other platforms. The reporting is still straightforward as well, very straightforward to the Cube perspective as far as how Verify is going to handle reports, building reports, automating reports, grouping content within the reports. We're going to get into that in a few moments as well. But I do just want to showcase your eyes real briefly before we come back into the granular stuff. One of my dashboards that kind of has built around this content. So let me just resize here real briefly. So we the Cube CDR data set, as we treat it within Verify, we're going to treat it exactly the same way as we do with the Call Manager CDR. So we already have about 6 or so dashboard widgets that this Cube CDR data set is going to fall into the same mold that we already have. So the same widgets, the same grouping mechanisms, the same report deliverables are all apparent within Cube CDR within Verify. We've been running this platform analytics since, I want to say, October, or at least late last year. So we've been having this for some time. So it's definitely a great add-on for the UCM CDR package of Verify if you have it. A lot of clients I deal with on a regular basis actually view this as part of the the missing piece of the puzzle for their data analysis with regards to all of their collaboration infrastructure. Okay, but as I kind of made mention with some of the things that we can certainly validate and identify within the history searches, and then we can certainly build reports around. But also we have the measures of dashboard widgets, which obviously are nice on the eyes. They're refreshing every couple of minutes as well. One thing I will make mention though, the CDR delivered by Cube though is not real time. It's actually going to be on an hourly routine. So it will be up to 60 minutes in the rear, but as always, our collection routines and our refreshes for our widget intervals will stay apparent and refresh when either to the default 5 minutes or lengthier if need be. But certainly what we can build out in these dashboard widgets and in the reporting as well, which we'll get to in a few moments, but will be a lot of the pieces that are why you need Verify is Cube Analytics. And certainly, as I made mention, there's going to be failures for traffic that is intended for inbound into the call manager that the Cube router should be handling and routing accordingly. But unfortunately, there certainly are times where there's abnormalities that are happening. Certainly very easy for us to build out kind of a which I would correspond to would be kind of a cause code widget for UCM CDR. These are cause codes that we see in the Cube data set, and they're very, very similar to what we would see in Call Manager as well. However, these are certainly calls that are not making it to Call Manager or not making it out from Call Manager. So the UCM CDR reporting is not going to have any appearance or awareness, if you will, of these degradations or these call failures. So we certainly have the leverage access to be able to go ahead and cultivate this and see what are the top disconnection abnormalities that are happening within the environment. Now, on this demo board here, I have all these built around current day for most of them around current day, but we can easily see here that network out of order, and temporary failure as well, but I'll pick on the network out of order error. So we're seeing this one 419 times today so far on this Cube router. Now, if I leverage some of my other dashboard widgets, I can certainly kind of chase it on down the rabbit hole a little bit, and I can actually see for the current day, when were we having these 419 network out of order codes? Well, broken down by hour of day here, certainly we can see there's definitely quite a few that actually happened during the 4 a.m. hour. There were 125 of these 419 network out of order errors that we saw at the 4 a.m. hour. So Call Manager is not going to know anything about this. Cube data will, however, no one is probably monitoring it to even be aware of that. So certainly Verify's analytics will be able to leverage that and showcase that, and then give you that level of discovery so that the the UC admins or the admins that work on the Cube routers can certainly dig into this and alleviate these pitfalls that you may be unaware of. But then also from there, okay, nice to know when it happened and the amount that it did happen, but also how about a little more information? Okay, what media addresses or what peer IDs were these failures happening on repeatedly? And now, was it the same one? So providing that little kind of sleuth kind of detective work there, we can certainly ascertain exactly which media addresses of these are handling these 419 network out of order failures. So very easy to group this and actually showcase then these corresponding remote media addresses actually that are having these network out of order errors for today. So it seems to be spread across all 4 of them, but then also maybe I also want to know what peer IDs are they failing on in addition to the remote media addresses. Well, here they are as well. I can group those pretty easily as well, and it's pretty easy to do so once I kind of have my filter set as I feel comfortable with it, which we can certainly dig up and validate within the history search engine we were just in a few moments ago. But very easy to kind of chase that down, build it out, see exactly where those failures are happening and on what media address they're failing on. I definitely think this is paramount for UC administrators to identify and lock down and resolve these issues that are happening at their Cube router levels. Okay, it's definitely one of the highest selling points, I think, of the value for the Cube analytics for Verify. Definitely also secondarily is going to be utilization at that Cube level. Now, certainly, let me slide this guy to the side. Now, certainly, this is just a lab environment of mine. I don't have a lot of data in here, but in a production environment, let's just pretend, if you will, that this y-axis header here is a 180 instead of 18. We'll throw a 0 on the back end of everything. So what this would service to me would be knowing that the current week, so the 9th through right now, that the high water mark is just shy of maybe 180 concurrent bidirectional channels being used on this router. So me, once again, devil's advocate here, if I was the UC admin and I knew that on this route for this router I only have 200 concurrent channels provided or procured from the ISP would serve as to let me know, at least visually, that I'm just shy of maybe 20 channels short of actually hitting the ceiling, calls starting to fail, getting dropped, fast busies, and definitely a poor experience within the telephony of the environment. So there's definitely a lot of use there for those to kind of be apparent in the forefront of your mind, or at least maybe on a dashboard for recognition of such, solely if only to make yourselves aware that you're not teetering on, I guess, that fine line as far as, once again, hitting the ceiling and calls being degraded, but also what is just, or maybe just brass tacks, what is your peak concurrency on this switch, on this router in the environment over X amount of time, broken down by, some hourly time unit, whether it's down to the quarter hour, half hour, hourly. I like the hourly myself, but certainly we can showcase what the trends are for the capacity on this route or this router as time goes on. Because as all these widgets, just like all of our other Verify widgets, they are refreshing in some interval, whether it's real time or if it's a couple of minutes in the rear. Certainly these will be refreshing and progressing as time progresses. Okay. A third major value I see from the Cube data set for the Verify reporting is going to be, as I made mention earlier, calls that are being routed to other platforms that are not CUCM once again. So maybe that could be MS Teams, maybe that could be a Contact Center Enterprise or a PCCE, or even a Zoom platform that you guys are utilizing within your environment. Admins are going to want to know how much traffic is being routed to and from those platforms that are traversing through these Cube iOS routers, outside of Call Manager, of course. So definitely this gives you the exposure to data that you didn't know, once again, where data is being routed to for those other platforms. Once again, are there any pitfalls that those the Cube routers having when routing calls to those other platforms that, once again, you may be unaware of? Very easy for us to go ahead and build that out in a Verify and identify that for you. Now, whether that's in a dashboard widget, or whether that's maybe even on one of the structured analytic reports that certainly can be running on frequency, which we'll cover in a moment. But also another fourth value, in addition to the abnormal call terminations off of the codes that we're going to see in the granular Cube CDR, will be the internal error codes, or IECs, for lack of a better term. Now, these are not IP addresses, but they are internal error codes on the Cube CDR themselves. So we can certainly, if we see one of these, or if we can build a widget to showcase the detail for these over whatever time frame that we want to utilize, we can certainly dig into the detail elements and very easily dig these out. So if I want to key off of maybe the previous day, I'll hop back to the history search engine here, you get rid of the sample, and I'll actually search by the internal error code. And once again, since I don't feel like memorizing that ID that was just on that last page, I'm going to use an easy button. I'll use starts with and just a capital X. One character or greater for previous day should match that widget. And I think I had 56 of them or so. Let's just identify what they are. Okay, maybe a couple more here. You zoom in for your eyes, but definitely in this data set here, just very easily to identify that. I searched off of internal error code, starts with one character or greater, and for the previous day, I have this layout here for me. So I'm also going to be able to see these, here they are. If this column has been added in the show hide columns, we should be able to see these internal error codes tied to the Cube CDR. Do I have something in here? Okay. But we'll be able to see those, and in addition to those, we'll also be able to see, the disconnect text. So there may be some a little descriptions here that could maybe help us, formulate exactly what this internal error code exactly means. Actually, last night I went onto Cisco's website and actually looked at their own documentation on these IECs. Not very descriptive, but certainly one could, I suppose, Google what some of those internal error codes are, or certainly you can bring it to Cisco TAC engineers for them to decrypt what those internal error codes are, but also where they're failing at. So where's the network entity that is actually failing, as well as the category and the subsystems as well, that could, once again, potentially be identified by Cisco for you to help you resolve and clean up those IECs that are happening on your Cube routings that, once again, you may be unaware of. Okay. Oh, as I always zoom, my screen goes sideways. I like 80% myself. Okay, so yeah, I mean, once again, always a lot of good things that we can build here. As always, there's always the permalinking option. So if you don't want to give access of the application to someone within your environment, just want to pre-build a Cube board for them, or any kind of dashboard, honestly, very easy to go ahead and turn on the permalinking access. We can copy the URL, and then that way you can just chat or email over to whomever that wants to see this content. They can certainly use that permalink static URL. They can bookmark it and then browse to it, or actually they can even broadcast it to a large television monitor within the environment, which is certainly a popular option. What the permalink certainly will be a read-only access to this board or visual access to this dashboard that we're currently looking at, with all the admin functionality completely stripped out. So if my slow lab is finished loading up here, primarily this would be an easy Cube permalink here for a manager to bookmark. Once again, same exact content that I was just showcasing, but no admin functionality whatsoever. There's refreshing or playing with the appearance, but none of that is going to harm any of the content on the board. If someone were to maybe even ruin the visual appearance of the board, anyone that has access to a mouse or a keyboard can certainly refresh the browser tab. It'll snap back to its original form with current and live content looking exactly like this in a moment or two once my lab will refresh that. So certainly there's kind of hands-off access to the dashboarding or the report structure as well. So now let's actually kind of walk that way. So within the report options underneath analytics for the Cube dataset, we definitely have some report template packages for the Cube side of the house as well. And let's see, here they are right here. These are on kb.verify.com. Certainly we can download the whole zip that houses all 6 or 7 of these. These are some of the ones that we will offer. So call summarization by peer ID, by capacity by media address utilization, inbound calls and outbound calls from the Cube's perspective, those top disconnection cause codes that I had mentioned, capacity utilization that we had just covered, also those IECs or those internal error codes for the troubled calls. Certainly we have reports that are built around that as well. Some of them may actually need a little love, meaning they'll need to actually swap out one of our values with one of yours. So all these knowledge-based articles on these report templates will showcase whether or not it's an optional or required change that is needed. Here's an example on the media address capacity utilization report. In this one, one would need to swap out our media address from our Verify labs to something that's specific for the environment that it's deployed within. So just a quick little showcase on that. So we certainly have those. We have the report template pack. You can certainly load them right into Verify. There is an import option over here, or certainly you can create them from the ground up as always. But you have the levels of access for these templates. You can copy them, you can build upon them, whatever you need to do. These are certainly stepping stones or educational pieces for the environment. But let's take a look at some of them. So I actually ran a few of these while Jim was opening for me. We certainly have media address capacity utilizations. I'm keying off of this 22.x media address server here for the month of October here. Now, unfortunately, I don't think I had any OC1 to 7 data in this lab, but I am showcasing that there were 156 peak concurrent calls that were traversing over this Cube route on this media address over that time frame. I have a little more data for the second week of October here. But once again, concurrency, capacity utilization and concurrency at the Cube router level. Very easy to get this from a structured report that can be ran on ad hoc, on demand, or even automated to run on a frequency basis, whether that's an hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, biannual, or annual basis. Okay. Let's see, what else do I have? Here are some top 10 disconnection cause codes. This report template here from this lab with this data set here. So for OC1 through the 12th, if I can get this guy to resize properly. Oh, it's too big. I've got 3,100 calls that have some abnormalities as far as the disconnection cause codes were identified. Network out of order. I'm utilizing a grouping here. Certainly, we just kind of walk through that with the widgets just to showcase that. I was only keying on one day. This is obviously almost 2 weeks, but certainly we can see the abnormalities. Now, we don't see normal call clearing in here, but we see the more abnormal style ones. Call rejected, subscriber absent, temporary failures, internetworking unspecified, bearer capability not implemented. Once again, if we're seeing these with regularity, these are calls that are not being connected properly. So we can just even take a quick look at the far right here, total average call duration. Most all of them are 0. If anything, maybe a couple of seconds here or there. But we network out of order, we've got over 1,000 calls that weren't connected. 0 call duration on the average. So we can know that at least these 1,000 calls were not connected as they were intentionally intended to do. Okay. And then if we need to, we can certainly build out the or include the granular call details on this data report if we needed to, so we could showcase exactly the calls, unfortunately, that were failing and they were running into the network out of order errors. a lot of levels of access there. A couple others just to comb through, maybe the troubled calls back to the IECs. So the internal error codes. So once again, these are not IP addresses, but once again, there is no, unfortunately, there's no decoder ring to go onto a Cisco website to actually decode what these are. Certainly, you can Google them, or you can bring them to Cisco TAC yourselves. But definitely, we can identify them, we can group on them, we can leverage them, as well as we can showcase the detail elements for them with exposure to these internal error codes that are happening. Now, if they're happening with regularity, are they happening on zero duration calls? Are they happening in the middle of a call where a call may have been established already? Certainly, the detail elements will certainly be able to provide that for you. Okay, and I think last but not least, okay, a peer ID usage summary report. This one's pretty good. So within this lab environment I'm connected to, certainly I could group by other pieces and other mechanisms, remote media address being one, a handful of others as well. But on this one, I like to key off a peer ID. So the peer IDs, I'm kind of sorting them by highest, by total call count, highest to lowest, to showcase exactly which is the most widely used peer IDs and which ones are maybe not. But then from there, what is their, I guess, their trending data looking like? So over maybe a time frame, and I'm keying once again off of all of October so far. Certainly we have our high-level totals, averages, and maybe percentages if we were to bake those in here at the group level here. But also we can showcase, I guess, the usage of these peer IDs. Now, as one of my previous reports showcase, I do not have OC1 through OC7 data, but I definitely have OC8 through right now in this lab. But that's what we can showcase very easily for calls that were presented to this peer ID, what was connected, what was not connected. Very easy to see this off these color codes within these bar charts. Once again, this is very easily and attainable within the dashboard widgets as well. But definitely, just want to make everyone aware that these can certainly be included into the structure reports that once again get ran either on demand, ad hoc, or on a scheduled frequency basis. So very easy to do that. I could have included the granular call details if I wanted to. For those of you who are very familiar and comfortable with Verify, you definitely know there's quite a bit that can be turned on and included within our reports, but certainly there's brevity and suppression, so we can certainly eliminate a lot of bloat within the reports if it's not needed for management. Okay, so unless there are, I'm anticipating some questions for certain, but I suppose that is my spiel for the moment, Jim.
Well, Matt, you did your job so good, there are no questions right now.
I love that.
So if anybody does have questions, feel free to go ahead and ask them now. Yeah, those templates are great. I use them all the time, and quick way to get things up and going real quick.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll even take our eyes here real quickly. Let me just jump back to the verify.com website. Even also underneath our support banner, underneath knowledge base, I'm going to zoom in for your eyes. That's a little zoomed out. Whether it's Call Manager, whether it's Contact Center Express, or even the Cube platform, certainly we have reporting template packages for all of them. So you can look at the KBs, or you can go right to the product downloads page off of verify.com, get logged in, of course. The installers for new upgrades will be up top, but certainly right underneath that will be the report template packages. So you've got your UCM, you've got your CCX, and as I just kind of walked us through, the Cube CDR report template packages. Definitely available when needed, and we highly recommend them, certainly.
Yep, very helpful. I just got one question that just came in from Deborah. May have missed this, but is Cube Analytics included in regular analytics?
Okay, well, good question. Now, I'm assuming when you say regular analytics, would that be Call Manager or CUCM style analytics that you're already probably utilizing? It is not, no ma'am. It is actually an additional add-on module for Verify. So short and sweet, no, it is not included in the UCM CDR reporting analytic package. It is in its own procurable entity and module SKU from Verify.
Right, we'd have to get that on the license with the Cube routers.
Correct, and we also certainly encourage any of the existing Verify customers that are accustomed and comfortable with our Call Manager reportings to maybe even take the Cube CDR analytics for an evaluation test drive. There's no strings attached, as always, and we can set it up for you, and you can validate and see over a few weeks if it's beneficial and available for you, for your environment.
Good point. All right, I think that's all that came in, so
I will stop sharing.
All right.
Take it away, sir.
Get myself organized here. All right, so that is the Q&A. Slide my window over. All right, so no more questions. And I do want to make mention of our user community, Planet Verify, our online community where you can connect with your peers and expand your knowledge of all things verified. And if you've been on before, you know we can also post some drink recipes in the cantina or whatever you like in the cantina. Also, just announced recently is Verify Beyond. Will be on October 27th. Be the first to register for our upcoming live stream event and secure your spot to learn about upcoming features and enhancements from Verify, including Zoom phone, WebEx calling, roadmap discussion, and more. We'll also be sending the first 100 registered Verify Beyond attendees an awesome t-shirt. Make sure to head on over to verify.com/beyond to register. All right, now that moment you've all been waiting for, the winner of this week's workshop gift card is Esteban Lagudas. Congratulations, Esteban. Your account manager will be reaching out to you shortly to get that gift card to you. And don't forget to join us next week where we're going to mix it up a little bit and have our very first AMA, or Ask Me Anything. We'll be joined by 3 of Verify's best SEs, Brian, Mike, and Dre, and you'll get a chance to ask our panel anything related to Verify. So start thinking of those questions now. All right. I'd like to thank you all again for attending and taking time out of your day to join us, and have a great rest of your week. Thank you.
Thank you all. Take care.